My beloved child. Pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not meant to pass by you unnoticed. There is a reason your attention was pulled toward these words, a reason something inside you hesitated before moving on, and a reason this message carries an unusual weight around your heart. Something is shifting in the unseen spaces surrounding your connection, and the person tied so deeply to your soul has been feeling that shift more intensely than they are willing to admit. They are not simply thinking about you more often. They are not merely missing you. They are standing at the edge of a decision that once would have terrified them, and now, somehow, the thought of waiting feels more frightening than the thought of moving forward. Heaven has watched this transformation quietly, and tonight I am revealing the beginning of why your soulmate suddenly feels such a powerful desire to make you their forever. Do not rush through this, because the first thing you must understand is that this urgency did not begin with romance. It began with fear of losing something rare. Not fear in the sense of panic, possession, or desperation, but the deep realization that certain connections cannot be replaced by simply meeting another person. Your soulmate has started noticing something about you that they once took for granted. Your presence does something to their inner world that no distraction can imitate. Even when you are silent, they feel your impact. Even when you are distant, memories of you continue speaking. Even when they try to convince themselves that there is plenty of time, another voice rises from somewhere deeper and whispers, "But what if there isn't?" That question has followed them more than you know. There have been moments recently when they have imagined their future in ways they never used to. They have pictured ordinary mornings, not dramatic declarations. They have imagined sitting beside someone after a long day and feeling safe enough to say nothing. They have imagined laughter filling a kitchen, quiet conversations after midnight, decisions being made as a team, celebrations that belong to two people instead of one. And every time their mind creates these scenes, your energy appears inside them almost automatically. This is what has unsettled them. They did not deliberately place you there. They did not sit down and force a fantasy. You simply kept appearing in the spaces where their future should be. And that is where heaven began getting their attention. Your soulmate once believed commitment would feel like losing freedom. They thought choosing one person meant closing too many doors. Perhaps they watched relationships around them become heavy, complicated, or emotionally exhausting. Perhaps they learned to protect themselves by remaining uncertain. Perhaps they became skilled at keeping one foot outside every emotional doorway because they thought distance would protect them from disappointment. But your connection has challenged that belief. Slowly, almost painfully, they are discovering that the right commitment does not feel like a prison. It feels like finally having somewhere your heart does not have to keep running from. This realization did not happen in one dramatic moment. It happened in fragments. A conversation they remembered when they were alone. A detail about you that suddenly seemed more meaningful than before. The way you responded when you could have reacted harshly. The patience you showed during a moment when they expected judgment. The strength you carried without announcing it. The tenderness hidden beneath your independence. The fact that you did not always demand explanations for every silence. The way your absence somehow felt louder than other people's presence. These fragments began gathering inside your soulmate until they formed something impossible to ignore. And then something changed. There was a moment, possibly late at night, when they imagined you moving on completely. Not as a manipulation. Not as jealousy. They simply pictured a future where someone else recognized your value before they had the courage to act. They imagined another person hearing your laugh every day, learning your habits, becoming your safe place, building memories with you that they could never enter. And something inside them tightened. For perhaps the first time, the idea of losing you stopped feeling theoretical. It felt real. That was one of the first sparks behind this sudden desire for marriage. But it is not the deepest reason. Heaven has been allowing your soulmate to see the contrast between attraction and alignment. Attraction can be intense and still disappear. Excitement can be powerful and still leave someone empty afterward. Chemistry can create unforgettable moments while offering no real foundation. But what your soulmate is discovering with you reaches beyond temporary emotion. There is a strange familiarity in the way they feel around you. Sometimes you challenge them, sometimes you frustrate them, sometimes you awaken parts of them they would rather keep hidden, but underneath all of it there is a sense of recognition they cannot explain. You make them confront themselves. And that is precisely why they have tried to move slowly. They were not always afraid of you. They were afraid of who they might have to become if they truly chose you. Marriage, to them, is no longer only a ceremony, a ring, a celebration, or a promise spoken in front of others. They have begun seeing it as a doorway into a version of themselves they once thought was far away. A steadier version. A more honest version. A version capable of building rather than merely dreaming. A version that stops escaping when emotions become serious. And when they imagine stepping into that life, they keep sensing that you are somehow connected to it. This is where the urgency becomes deeper. Your soulmate has spent more time than you realize thinking about how much time people waste waiting for perfect circumstances. They have watched others postpone important conversations until resentment grew. They have seen relationships end because pride lasted longer than patience. They have watched people assume there would always be another opportunity, another season, another chance to say what mattered. Somewhere along the way, your soulmate began asking themselves a dangerous question: what exactly am I waiting for? They expected an easy answer. They did not find one. They thought they were waiting for certainty, but they already knew how they felt. They thought they were waiting for better timing, but they realized timing is rarely perfect. They thought they were waiting until life became simpler, but every season brings its own complications. They thought they needed another sign, another confirmation, another reason to believe this connection could survive the realities of everyday life. And then heaven began showing them something through repetition. No matter what changed around them, your significance remained. Days became weeks. Situations shifted. Moods changed. Other distractions appeared. Yet somehow the thought of building something lasting with you kept returning. It returned when they were busy. It returned when they were tired. It returned after conversations with friends. It returned during quiet drives. It returned when they witnessed couples growing old together. It returned when they heard someone speak about regret. It even returned during moments when they tried to convince themselves they should stop thinking so far ahead. The feeling did not disappear. It matured. This is important, my child, because your soulmate is beginning to understand the difference between an emotional rush and a persistent inner knowing. A rush screams and fades. A deeper knowing often whispers and stays. Their desire to marry you may look sudden from the outside, but within them it has been forming silently beneath layers of hesitation, self-protection, questions, and unspoken longing. The speed is new. The foundation is not. There is another reason this desire has intensified, and this one may surprise you. Your soulmate has started seeing sides of you they believe would become even more beautiful within a committed partnership. They notice how you care, even when you pretend not to. They notice the loyalty hidden behind your boundaries. They notice that once you truly give your heart, you do not treat connection casually. They notice your ability to rebuild after disappointment. They notice the wisdom you gain through things you rarely speak about. And something inside them recognizes that you are not only someone they could love passionately. You are someone they could build with. That distinction changed everything. Passion asks, how do you make me feel right now? Partnership asks, what could we create together over years? Your soulmate is beginning to ask the second question. And every answer brings them closer to you. They have imagined how you might handle difficult seasons. They have wondered how you would support one another during unexpected changes. They have thought about whether your strengths complement their weaknesses. They have imagined disagreements followed by understanding instead of abandonment. They have even begun thinking about details they never considered important before. What kind of home would feel peaceful? What traditions might become yours? What values you would protect, what dreams you would encourage in one another. These thoughts scare them because they feel strangely natural. But heaven is not asking them to rush recklessly. That is not what this revelation means. The urgency growing within your soulmate is not supposed to erase wisdom, communication, or mutual readiness. It is not meant to pressure you. It is not meant to transform love into a countdown. What is happening is something subtler. They are losing their appetite for unnecessary delay. There is a difference between moving wisely and hiding behind endless hesitation, and your soulmate is beginning to understand how often they confuse the two. They called avoidance taking their time. They called fear being careful. They called silence waiting for the right moment. They called emotional distance protecting the connection. But somewhere inside them, they know that love cannot grow forever in a room where no one is willing to turn on the light. That recognition has been humbling. There are things they wish they had handled differently with you. Words they wish they had spoken sooner. Moments when they could have offered reassurance but stayed quiet. Times they may have made you question something they already understood in their own heart. They have revisited these memories privately, and although they cannot change the past, they are beginning to feel a strong desire to stop repeating old patterns. This is where marriage enters their thoughts with such intensity. It symbolizes decisiveness. For them, the thought of marrying you has become connected to the desire to finally stop standing halfway between fear and love. They are tired of emotional halfway places. Halfway honest. Halfway vulnerable. Halfway committed. Halfway present. They are realizing that some of their deepest dissatisfaction did not come from what life denied them. It came from what they refused to fully choose. And now they are looking at you differently. There is a softness in the way they think about you now, but there is also determination. They may still have questions. They may still worry about practical realities. They may still wonder how everything would come together. Yet something has changed beneath those questions. Before, uncertainty was a reason to retreat. Now, uncertainty feels like something two people could face together. That shift is enormous. Because a person is ready for deeper commitment not when every problem disappears, but when they stop believing they must solve every problem alone before love can begin. Your soulmate is slowly arriving there. They are realizing they do not need a flawless life before choosing a meaningful one. And then came another revelation. Heaven allowed them to notice how peaceful certain thoughts of you feel compared with the noise surrounding other areas of their life. There may be stress around work, family expectations, money, personal direction, unfinished goals, or internal battles they do not fully share. Their mind can become crowded. Their future can sometimes feel unclear. Yet strangely, when they imagine being truly united with you, something becomes quiet. Not every question disappears. But the noise changes. They begin thinking, maybe I do not need to know every detail. Maybe I only need to know who I want beside me while I discover the rest. That thought has stayed with them. And this, my child, is one of the reasons their heart seems to be moving faster than their circumstances. They do not want another year of wondering what could have happened if both of you had simply been brave enough at the same time. They are beginning to understand how rare mutual recognition can be. Many people spend years searching for someone who can see both their strength and their hidden tenderness. Someone who can challenge them without trying to control them. Someone whose presence feels exciting but also strangely grounding. Someone who awakens desire while also awakening responsibility. Your soulmate sees traces of that possibility in you. And they are afraid that treating something rare as if it were ordinary could become one of their greatest regrets. There is more. Something has recently made them think about legacy. Not wealth. Not status. Not what strangers remember. The kind of legacy created inside a home. The emotional atmosphere two people build around each other. The way love changes how future chapters are experienced. They have begun wondering who they would become after years beside you. Would they become calmer? More courageous? More compassionate? More focused? More honest? Would you both look back someday and realize you helped each other grow into people neither of you could have become alone? These are not casual thoughts. And this is why their desire feels almost urgent. Marriage has stopped feeling like the ending of a romantic story. It has started feeling like the beginning of the life they actually want. Still, there is something they have not admitted. Not even fully to themselves. They are worried that you may not believe them if they suddenly become serious. They know that if they have been hesitant before, their new intensity might confuse you. They know you may wonder whether this is temporary emotion. They know you may protect your heart rather than immediately celebrate. And somewhere inside them, they respect that. Because they understand trust cannot be demanded simply because they finally became certain. It must be demonstrated. This realization is pushing them towards something more meaningful than grand words. They are beginning to think about how to show consistency. How to make their intentions visible. How to speak clearly instead of hiding behind hints. How to create emotional safety instead of asking you to gamble your heart on promises. They want you to feel the difference. Not merely hear it. And that is another reason heaven has not revealed everything at once. Because there is a conversation forming. A conversation your soulmate has rehearsed in different ways inside their mind. Sometimes they imagine saying it boldly. Sometimes they imagine becoming emotional halfway through. Sometimes they picture you going completely quiet because you were not expecting the depth of what they are about to confess. They have thought about telling you that they are done pretending this connection is casual inside them. They have thought about admitting that imagining a future without you now feels emptier than they expected. They have thought about telling you that they do not simply want more moments. They want permanence. But there is one sentence they have not yet found the courage to say. And heaven has heard it inside their heart. Before I reveal that sentence, you must understand something else about this sudden desire to marry you. Part of your soulmate's urgency is connected to healing. There was once a version of them that did not believe they could sustain the kind of love they secretly wanted. Maybe they believed they would disappoint anyone who got too close. Maybe they feared repeating patterns they witnessed growing up. Maybe they carried guilt from past mistakes. Maybe they thought commitment would eventually expose every imperfect part of them and cause someone to leave. So they learned to protect themselves by never needing anyone too deeply. Then you entered their emotional world. And instead of simply making them feel loved, you exposed the places where they had refused to love themselves. This frightened them. Because real connection often touches both the beautiful and unfinished parts of a person. You made them want to become more emotionally available. Not because you demanded perfection, but because something about you made avoidance feel less satisfying. They began noticing the moments they shut down. The way pride interfered with honesty. The way old wounds shaped new reactions. The way fear could disguise itself as indifference. They started recognizing themselves. And once someone truly recognizes their own patterns, they cannot comfortably return to pretending those patterns are destiny. Your soulmate has been changing. Quietly. Not perfectly. But genuinely. There are battles you never saw. Moments they wanted to reach out and did not. Moments they almost admitted everything and lost courage. Moments they convinced themselves you deserved someone less complicated. Moments they wondered whether loving you meant risking a pain they had spent years trying to avoid. Yet after every retreat, one truth remained. They still wanted you. That persistence began teaching them something. Maybe love was not the danger. Maybe running from it was. And once that thought entered their heart, the entire meaning of commitment began changing. There is another layer heaven wants you to see. Your soulmate has begun feeling protective of the future you could share. They are no longer only thinking about whether you like them enough, whether the chemistry is strong enough, or whether the timing feels convenient. They are thinking about what would be required to protect a lasting bond. Communication, boundaries, loyalty, humility, patience, shared responsibility. They are realizing marriage is not sustained by intensity alone. And strangely, this deeper understanding has not reduced their desire. It has increased it. Because the more realistically they imagine life with you, the more something inside them says, "I still want this." That is significant. Fantasy usually becomes weaker when reality enters the picture. But their feelings are becoming clearer. They imagine tired days, not only beautiful ones. They imagine disagreements, not only affection. They imagine responsibilities, not only celebrations. They imagine seasons when one of you will need to carry more because the other is struggling. And still, they see your face. Still, they want to choose you. Still, something within them says that building a real life with you would be worth the effort. This is the part they have not told anyone. There are moments when your soulmate mentally calls you by a future title. Not simply, "the person I love." Something more permanent. Their spouse. Their partner. Their home. The first time this thought appeared, they may have dismissed it. The second time, they became curious. But after it kept returning, they could no longer pretend it meant nothing. They began imagining what your name would sound like connected to theirs in introductions. How it might feel to look across a room and know you are the person they chose publicly and privately. How it might feel to wake after a disagreement and still know neither of you is leaving simply because the moment became difficult. How it might feel to finally stop questioning whether the connection is temporary. These thoughts have awakened a hunger for stability they did not know they possessed. And heaven has been using that hunger to show them something important. Their deepest desire was never endless freedom. It was safe belonging. They just did not know the difference. For years, they may have thought keeping options open gave them control. But options do not create intimacy. Distance does not create peace. Endless possibilities do not automatically create fulfillment. At some point, the soul begins craving depth more than variety. Your soulmate has reached that point. They want depth. They want a bond strong enough to hold truth. They want the comfort of being known without constantly performing. They want to build something that does not disappear the moment life becomes inconvenient. And when they ask themselves who awakens that desire most strongly, they keep arriving at you. But now we are approaching the revelation that explains why this desire accelerated so suddenly. Something happened inside them when they realized you had changed too. They began sensing that you are no longer waiting in the same way. Perhaps your energy became quieter. Perhaps you stopped chasing clarity. Perhaps you became less willing to prove your worth. Perhaps you started returning your attention to your own peace, dreams, routines, and future. Whether you spoke about this shift or not, they felt it. They sensed that you were becoming capable of moving forward without needing them to catch up. And unexpectedly, this did not make them want to control you. It woke them up. Your soulmate realized there is a difference between someone loving you and someone waiting forever while you decide what to do with that love. They know you have a life. They know your heart has limits. They know patience should not be confused with permanence. And for the first time, they are confronting the possibility that if they keep hesitating, life may continue moving even if they remain still. This realization shook something loose inside them. Suddenly, waiting did not feel wise. It felt costly. That is when the thought of marriage stopped being, someday. It became, why not sooner than I thought? Not impulsively. Not carelessly. But intentionally. They started asking themselves what would truly need to happen before they could make a serious commitment. And the list was shorter than they expected. They do not need to become perfect. They need to become honest. They do not need every financial detail solved. They need a willingness to build responsibly. They do not need every old wound completely erased.